everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Word with Ty Brownlow. I am your host, Ty Brownlow. Remember, no one is worthless. No story is worthless. Today, ladies and gentlemen, I got a treat for y'all. Look here. For all of my hip-hop aficionados, or purists, as you would like to call them, I have a treat for you, all right? We're going to talk hip-hop, but really in-depth things about hip-hop. And I love the perspective, you know, because we have a woman's perspective. She's been, man, in music, radio, 15 plus years, you know, has done some of everything under the sun. And she currently has a book called 7 Lessons Hip Hop Taught Me That School Didn't. And I don't know about you all, but I know I can relate to that, just so as many as you all can. But joining me all the way from Atlanta, there it is, yes. ATL, y'all, Dirty South. Man, please put your hands together for Civ Jones. Thank you.
What's going on, Brother Ty? Thank you for having me.
Man, you are welcome. You are welcome. Man, look here. First and foremost, man, I just want to say this is going to be a great conversation. I love really talking about hip hop in its essence. As I said before, man, you are an author, cultural analyst, speaker, among many things, you know, but you wrote a book called 7 Lessons Hip Hop Taught Me That School Didn't. Can you talk a little bit about the book overall and how did you come up with these concepts?
Well, okay, so the book overall is that I really delve in deep on what I learned about hip hop culture and the things that hip hop taught me that I didn't get from school. And that happens to be with things that are really going on in the Black community. You know, we are the originators of hip hop. And when hip hop first came out, you know, Public Enemy, Chuck D said that hip hop was the CNN of what was going on in Black America. And so as I was just kind of just like researching and just, you know, trying to figure out what I wanted to do next as far as after radio, I thought like, okay, well, what is this something that I'm really, really good at? When I was in Baltimore, I was doing all kinds of hip hop events and doing all kinds of local stuff and trying to bridge that gap between what was happening as far as with the music and the hip hop industry on the streets to the radio, because there was no one there to bridge that gap and actually take back like, hey, this is what's happening in the streets, radio DJs, this is, you know, and I was trying to be that person. Well, I was that person, not even trying to be that person. I was that person. So as I got to like just thinking about, you know, I wrote this book I never thought that I was going to write a book. I got fired from the radio station. Excuse me. Yes.
Really?
I got fired. This was during the time of the Freddie Gray.
Great. Yeah.
And at that time, I was on radio, and I'm like, this is my moment, you know, like I'm about to go in, I'm about to tell what's going on, you know, not F the cops, but pretty much that's the type of stance I was on. And an advertiser did not like it. And so my program director at the time, he brought me in. He pretty much said that I cost the station upwards of to like $10,000 and that they snatched me off the radio at that time. So at that time, I was doing really big things. I had remotes, I had endorsement deals. I was, you know, in the groove of becoming like Civ Jones, the radio personality. And then all of that stuff was snatched from me. And at that moment, I was like, wow, I built this station up. I rode for this station. Every time you saw me, it was, you know, this, radio and that, blah, 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 blah. Mm-hmm. And I needed something. I was like, if I ever get back on radio, I need to be able to have something, a product that they cannot take from me. And I just thought, like, well, what is it that I do well? At that time, I was doing blog entries and writing blogs and just writing opinionated pieces about hip hop culture and music and what to do and how to get your music on radio and just kind of being that consultant. And I was like, I'm gonna put all this in a book. And so and that's exactly what I did. I put it all in a book, and this is what you have. 7 lessons hip hop taught me that school did.
All right, go ahead and show that book one more time for the people out there so they can see it. Hey, look here, ladies and gentlemen. Man, that's what it is. 7 lessons hip hop taught me that school didn't. And I know we all can relate to a whole bunch of what's going on in this book. But before we dive in real quick, like, let's talk a little bit about your hip hop background, because I was reading, man, you grew up overseas and, you spent part of your time, here in the States and, part of your time in Hawaii and things of that nature. So talk about your hip hop background and like, what was it that, started you down this road on, in hip hop?
My father is a big musician, and at one point in time my father wanted to make us a girl group. Like I said, he should have been more on his Michael Jackson's dad. I can't think of his name right now. This is my husband, by the way. He's my business manager, so he in the background. But Matthew Knowles, like if he would have been on Matthew Knowles type 10, maybe we would have been Beyonce and all of them, right? But my father was like, he wanted us to be this girl group. So he used to introduce us to just all kinds of songs, music. And it was him where he brought Snoop Dogg's Doggy Style. And he would let us listen to it. And so we would be in the car. He had the Regal. We would be bumping down the street listening to Snoop Dogg's Doggy Style, and from there, I fell in love with the culture. I mean, I was talking to my husband recently, just telling like on the radio, I remember like having my cassette tapes, and the newest rap came out, and I would record it, and then I would play it back to write down the lyrics, and play it back to write down the lyrics, so I can go to my school and rap these raps. And then like in high school, me and a good friend of mine, she's actually a musician now. Her name is More Mother Goddess. We started a rap group. I was civil, she was degrees. And together we were civil degrees. And we would rap. Here you have these 2 girls, and we would just, nobody else, especially like women, wasn't really they didn't really like hip hop like that, but we loved it. And we wrote rhymes. I mean, we would jump into ciphers. Like I really thought that I was going to be an artist. But then at one point I got to, perform on the stage, and I felt like so out of place. I was like, I am not an artist. Like I cannot hold the microphone. I cannot rap and sing and do this ain't me. So I was like, okay, well, what do I do well? And I talk. So I said, I'm gonna do radio. I'm going to radio. And then from there, like I said, when I went into radio, I saw that there was a void missing from what was happening in Baltimore hip hop, and it wasn't translating to commercial radio. And I just saw all this clutter, this sound of like, radio don't care about, the local MCs and blah, 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 blah. And so I said, this is what I want to do. So I said, how am I going to put myself, like, how can I make myself valuable to the Baltimore community? And I said, I'm gonna do a documentary. So that was my biggest my first project, is that I did a documentary on all of the women on the Baltimore hip hop scene that was doing something. It was called Even a Man Can Do This. And it was, we were so ahead of our time. This is before women rappers. Now it's a plethora of them, but that's a whole other story. But at that time, this is when it was a void, where it was like, where are all the female MCs during that time? And I talk about that in my book. And here you had in Baltimore, it was a plethora of women rappers and just women beat makers, women videographers. And my whole project, Even a Man Can Do This, was produced, edited, filmed, all by women. I did a show. I mean, it was, like I said, we were so ahead of our time. And we didn't have social media back then, right? So it just kind of, you know, we did it to say we did it, and then it just kind of, you know, went on this way.
Well, you know, first and foremost, man, let me just say, big up to you and big up to your partner. I can't think of her name right now, but you called her what? Mother what?
More Mother Goddess. And she's actually More Mother Goddess, and she's an artist right now. She's went on because this girl was an art. This is what she does. And now she's this international jazz artist, and you can look her up, and she's like touring all over the world now, and she's doing her own style of music. I think it's called noise. The genre is called noise. And she's fusing jazz, hip hop, poetry, and just all kinds. So you gotta definitely check her out.
I know, like in the first part of your book, it's called Social Currency, and you tell a very unique story about meeting a man. Well, I still consider her to be a big MC, you know, and, you know, a primetime MC now. But basically, you were talking about rappers being the first influencers. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. I mean, think about it from the way we dressed, right? I mean, really, the first time I ever heard about Dolce & Gabbana and Gucci and all these high industry clothing companies was from a rapper. I didn't know anything about, I didn't grow up like that, you know? The different vehicles that we all was riding at that time, you know, Benz, Beamers, and Coupes, and Acras, and all of those things, right? To what you drink, you know. Remember, it was like Thug Passion. Everybody wanted to drink Hennessy, and what was Thug and Hypnotic. You know, right? Hennessy and Alizé. It was the most disgusting thing, but everybody wanted to drink it.
Gin and juice.
You know, like just all of this. We were the first influencers. No other genre of music. I can't think of another. I don't think rock did it. Pop, that was able to transcend all generations, colors of people. Was hip hop. I mean, I was in Kentucky maybe not that long ago, and I was like, wow, that when they dropped the 90s music, you saw all of these hillbilly, I mean, and they were getting down, and I was like, look at this, like hip hop is the great connector amongst men. I mean, even if you don't know anybody, like if you go to a concert, like if you go to a Jay-Z concert or someone who has a multitude of fans, you're going to see people from all walks of life in that arena, in that place, and you all are vibing off of this hip hop artist. No other genre of music does that. And it's not just it's just predominantly black and maybe a little bit of sprinkles. No, you see a lot of representation. It's like a big rainbow, and hip hop culture has been able to do that. Like it goes beyond just what's happening in the black community. It goes beyond that. You know, I'm riding down the street and I'm hearing somebody bass banging, boom, and I look over, it's a little white boy or a little preppy white boy. I'm like, what? What's happening here?
Come on, man. So look, if you don't tell this truth, okay? If you don't tell this truth.
It's the great unifier. And, you know, before social influencers, you know, and now we have this big thing of social influence, hip hop artists was that. They were the prototype of what it meant to be a social influencer. And their currency was very great.
Did you rock the sweatpants with one leg up like LL Cool J?
So look, hold on, man. It is so funny. It's so funny that you mentioned this, because now I'm about to take you on a real quick timeline, okay? Who made Adidas famous? Run DMC.
Run DMC.
Nobody really was rocking Adidas like that. Now, don't get me wrong.
My Adidas.
Man, my Adidas, but I can tell you, I remember this time. They were rocking like the Adidas London sweatshirts from like the Olympiad or what have you. Like, that was big. Coca-Cola watches was big. Guess Bugle Boy, that was big.
When all of that, right.
On the scene. Yeah, hey, look here. I'm telling, man, yes, brother. Man, Yes, I'm taking you on a history trip. All right, man. Yeah. But when like Adidas came along and Run DMC had this commercial, I remember being in 8th grade watching the commercial. Like it was the only time you seen this commercial was on Rap City. That's the only time you ever see this commercial. You didn't see this commercial played any other time like commercials are played now. They only played it at, man, well, here it was like 3:30, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. You know what I'm saying? Okay. But like, man, I'm gonna see if your husband remember this one.
Okay.
When I was in college, okay, St. Ides had a special brew. They had a commercial with Snoop. They had a commercial with Wu-Tang. They had a commercial with Ice Cube, and they would like sell this special brew, and they would push this special brew on people. I wasn't drinking St. Ides like that. I wasn't even drinking.
I wouldn't either.
Okay.
I wouldn't either.
Right. I mean, like my uncle and them would tell me stories about Wild Irish Rolls and all this other stuff, but man, man, but look here. Man, y'all got that St. Ides special brew up in here? Man.
I remember St. Ides having a very heavy impact in the Black communities, and you had these major poster boards with. I do remember that. I don't know how well it did, but I do remember, you know, people drinking St. Ides.
Well, I will say this. Look, down at Illinois State in Bloomington Normal, Illinois, which is way far from Chicago, guess what we were drinking? St. Ides. All right. Because that's how much of an influence it was. Now, how much right? I mean, man, you talk about rappers being influencers. The first real hip hop commercial I seen for a major product was the Sprite commercial with Grand Puba, Pete Rock, and Keith Murray. And I want to say Keith Murray had like a Coke commercial. You know what I'm saying? Wow. But they will have him in the studio rapping, and it will be for Sprite. So guess what we went out and got? Sprite. Sprite became the drink of choice. You know, so you saying all these things, like, man, these are just bringing back memories. And as I said, as I'm sitting here reading your, you know, skimming through the book, I'm like, oh man, I remember this, I remember that, I remember this, I remember doing that, I remember doing this. You know,
it's my love letter. It's my love letter to hip hop culture, because I meet so many gatekeepers, you know, and I meet so many, and I come from that ilk, right? But I love the stuff that's happening with the new school artists as well. Like, I like that trap rap. Like, some of it is very detrimental to our society. But but when I bring this up, I'm like, look, this is our culture. We created this. Like, I wasn't around. I wasn't born when the blues was popping and all of our you know, in those generations. But I was born and saw how hip hop became this major influence, and it came from people who looked like me, people who I could reach out and touch. And now I'm seeing it being taken from us. Like, we are seeing we are living true witnesses of seeing what happens to a genre of Black entertainment or just Black culture that was created here, you know, in the Americas. And we're seeing this, we're living it, and we're seeing our culture being slowly taken and stolen from us and being used to give us the most worst messages. And it wasn't, and I don't think that, you know, when the creators and the inventors were, and the forefathers, when they were creating this genre of music, I don't believe this is where they thought it was going to go.
Look, I'm going to take it a step further. Ladies and gentlemen, everything she's saying is true. And if you don't believe what she's saying is true, for all of those out there that like vinyl records, go to a record store now. Guess who's going to be working there? Guess who owns the record store? We don't. Yeah. We used to.
We used to. It's not us.
No, some of us do.
Well,
it's
yeah, but they
maybe here in Atlanta. Maybe here in Atlanta, you know, like what I do notice being here in Atlanta is that, yes, Atlanta, there is a way more Black ownership, when it comes to like our art and like just our food and just different things. It is that. But when you go other places, no, it's not us that own these record stores.
Man, it is not us that owns it. It is not us throwing these certain types of parties. It is not us throwing these venues. But these are things that we originated. But as you said, they have been taken from us. Stolen, taken, however you want to put it. But when Jack Harlow is your #1 artist, I'm just saying, okay. No offense to Jack Harlow, but I'm just saying, when like Macklemore wins Album of the Year, I got an issue with that.
I have an issue with that as well too. And then the thing is it's not that there's not room, because I do believe that like it is a non-bias, right? It's a non-biased arena. You'll see Asians, Blacks, Mexicans, all colors of people enjoying this music, putting this music out, working in this industry, right? But they only allow a certain, like the Macklemores, right? Could you have a Black Macklemore? Could we have a Black Jack Harlow? You know what I mean? Like, why don't they're not signing these type of artists that do that type of music, or not even signing them, but giving them the capital to be able to become these major stars, right? It's like they want our swag, they want all of us, but they want it to come from a white face, okay? They don't want to put no more, they don't want to make any more Black billionaires. They don't want to make no more Black mega stars, right? They want it to come from someone who looks like them, but has our swag, you know? And then all of the people behind Jack Harlow are Black people. So it comes to the, like, who's really to blame? Do we blame them, or do we blame us for selling out to the highest bidder? So
glad you said that, because, well, I mean, and I know you talk about this in your book as well, but man, I know part 2 or chapter 2 or lesson 2, you talk about, ladies and gentlemen, please don't get upset with me for
don't get upset.
Language. But man, we talk about the power of pussy. All right.
Oh, I was gonna bring it up. Oh, hey, God.
Hey. And wait a minute, ladies and gentlemen, I ain't talking about the Jay-Z and R. Kelly song. I'm talking about the real stuff going out here.
Right.
All right. But can you really talk about like the women's influence? Because you really broke that down. And some of the people that you named, I'm like, oh man, I remember. Oh God, I remember this. I remember that. But talk to us, Civ.
Absolutely. And when I put that right there, the power of pussy, is not just talking about sexual preference. It's not just talking about sexual. It's all the things that women have done when it comes to hip hop. And so many times we always think that hip hop culture is a male sport. For the most part, it is, you know. But just as much as the men created it, there were women that were there too. Just like the civil rights movement, right? We always think that the civil rights movement was just a bunch of men in a, getting together to talk about how we were going to boycott this and do that. But there were the women there too, right? And so many times women, especially Black women, get left out of a story. And I really wanted to really dwell down deep into like where the female presence came from, how we were running things, how we was able to get some of our men. I mean, Sylvia Robinson, she was the one that kind of really made commercial rap. Like, she put her money behind it. She had a record company, and she really got those guys out there and had them to become these major commercial rappers, right? And that was from Sylvia Robinson, Pillow Talk, And then you had your Queen Latifah, your MC Lights, your Bahama Diaz, your Moni Loves, who was bringing like the British rap. I mean, I can't think of any other British rapper than Moni Love. Moni Love was probably the first British rapper that had commercial mainstream appeal in America. It was Moni Love. She brought that to here, right? Mm-hmm. And so then, like I said, then you had a moment, and like I grew up in the 90s, right? So I saw when Lil' Kim came through in Foxy Brown, and it was like, whoa.
CLC.
Right. Well, like, whoa, what's happening here? You know what I mean? Are we getting rid of our baggy pants and we throwing on minks? We throwing on lingerie? You know, we're talking about these sexual topics that are so taboo that Black women were like, But they did this thing, like Foxy Brown and Little Kim were really some of the first. I wouldn't put them in the feminist category because the feminists at that time, and how I touched on my book, wasn't really dealing with Kim and Foxy and them, and how vocal they were about their sexual freedom, right? So, but they were that. They are the reason why women are so sexually free now. You know what I'm saying? Like, and they really brought that into the forefront, right? And we're still kind of, now it's like, whew, now the blueprint is just like overdone. We're seeing so much of it. But the new generation of women rappers, I kind of got away from that femc thing. I'm now just saying women rappers. It's just my own little thing I'm dealing with, that I'm like evolving from that word, you know, after I actually sat down and was like, yeah, MCs, why can't they just be MCs? You know what I'm saying? So I had to, like, I'm cutting myself off for certain language. So women rappers now, right? In the 21st century, before, a woman had to go through a male group. She was the first lady, right? She was the one, and then you had all 5, 6 Negroes around her. Now, they don't have to do that. Because men don't have to go through a male rap group to be this one. Now they don't, you know, but women at a point had to do that, but now they're not. Cardi B, I would have to say Cardi B was the first one who stopped that. She didn't come through a male rap group. She went on, she had a background as a stripper, and then she went on to reality TV. But then she was actually in the studio writing bars. And when she dropped Bodak Yellow, I was like, okay, Cardi, let's go. I was like, wow. It's like the girl had rhymes. So it was Cardi B, and then Meg Thee Stallion. Meg didn't come through a male rap crew. Now you have mulattoes. You have all of these different women rappers who are doing things and who are like killing the game right now, just with merchandise and, being influential, just all kinds of things that the women are doing now. And they're standing on their own. They don't need a male rap crew to do this, right? And they're really showing you, like, look, the industry was not checking for women at all. Like, they stopped. If you look at my book, Nicki was the only one that they were really giving the love to. Until, they wanted Iggy Azalea to be they wanted Iggy to be the Jack Harlow. But at the end of the day, Black women got to feel you. If Black women don't co-sign you, you're not going anywhere. And you're just not, and Black women was not co-signing Iggy. You had this white girl from Australia who talked like she was from a black girl from down south, stealing our looks. Nah, we're not co-signing that. So that, and when you read the book, you see how the industry really put the machine behind her. But it did not go the way that they thought it was going to go, because one, she did not appeal to Black women. Black women was not feeling her at all, but then you had your Megs, you had all of this, because they were like, they wasn't checking for female rappers. So what happened was female rappers had to go through the social media to become where they are right now. And that's how social media blew up women rappers.
You know what? That's a very good perspective, because I remember, like, the Cardis, man, look here. I remember when Bodak Yellow came out, and I was teaching special ed at the time, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And like, these kids just come in one day and they're just rapping the hook. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, what are y'all talking about? Man, you ain't up on Cardi? I'm like, no, I'm not up on Cardi. Like, who is this? And blah, 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 blah. Like, oh man, she got this song, da, 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 da. And once I heard it, I was like, what in the hell is this? You know what I'm saying? But
Right.
this is where we've come, you know what I'm saying? And, you know, like, I can tell you, I was out in California when Meg burst onto the scene, and, you know, she was really like coming through, you know what I'm saying? And even then I was just like, okay, I'm not getting it, you know, like maybe I need to take a step back, because in my mind, you know, you talking about the Bahamadia, the Queen Latifahs, you know, the Sha Rocks, man, look here, I even go overseas. You talking about Moni Love, there was a crew called the Cookie Crew. It was these two girls from France or whatever, and Herbie Lovebug, Salt and Pepper's old manager, that was their manager. And you know, even though, you know, it sounded like they were yelling most of the time on the mic, but they were rapping. Sweet Pea, you know, like I come from like this era, you know what I'm saying? Raw Digger, you know, like that. Like, man, I come from this era. So I'm used to hearing a certain type of lyricism when it comes to like female rappers. And then to hear this, but I had to take a step back and I had to understand that, okay, this isn't what you were dealing with. This is what it is now. So back, like, you know, so I think your book is a great timeline for those, you know, even if you're not, you know, pushing 50 or so, but if you're somewhere within like the 40 to 35 range or what have you, this book is a timeline for you. And I also think it's a great lesson, man, it's a great learning lesson for those who are of the younger age, you know, who just may not really know, you know, real history of like hip hop. So, like I said, hats off to you for this book.
We have to control our narrative. You know, we have to control the narrative. Me and you.
Okay. All right. So now, a third chapter, or one of the things you talk about, which is, man, and I think you had a quote in there. I don't know if it was your quote or you quoting somebody else, but you were talking about hip hop culture and drugs are married to one another and you wish they get a divorce.
Yes, that's my quote.
Yes, that is a Civ Jones. Man, look here. Yes. And I just, look, when I read that and I saw that, like, that is some of the, man, those are some of the realest words I've ever like seen or heard. Because if you really think about, I mean, look, drugs and music, they have a history with each other throughout time itself, you know what I'm saying? But hip hop and drugs, man, it's almost as if they're like married at the hip, and like, without me, there can't be a you. Without you, there can't be a me. And, you know, can you, man, talk about this chapter?
Ooh, this chapter was a real deep chapter for me. And it was because it was one of those chapters where you hear a lot of the conspiracies, right? Growing up, you know, they put drugs in America, you know, they put drugs in the Black community. And you're like, well, who is they? You know, I always wondered, like, who was they? And they were the FBI. They were the American government. That's who they were. And to see and to research, especially when I believe it was a FBI, I can't think of, it's in my book, but he was under the Roosevelt, I believe, or Reagan. It was one of them. It's probably all of them, Reagan. And he came out and said, yes, we put drugs in into the Black community. I mean, he said this, right? And then with the whole Reaganomics and where that came from and how that was a part of, because I'm like, why do we not really mess with Cuba? And it was because of the Contras and how they were giving the drugs here, and they was putting in it, you know, putting in the community. And then Freeway, not the rapper, but Freeway Ricky Ross saying, hey, someone gave me these drugs. Someone from the FBI, from the government, gave me these drugs to run them, to put this in the Black community, right? Mm-hmm. So when I saw that, I was like, wow, like the conspiracy theorist was correct, you know, when they thought this, right? And it just started to make me think, like, well, why is it so much drug influence talk in the music, right? And you can actually see how it changed. The message, you know, the dealers, because I grew up in the dealer time frame, right? I grew up when everybody wanted to be a drug dealer. I mean, everybody. Like, and I didn't grow up in the city. I grew up in the outskirts, the county of Baltimore, but I would see these drug dealers come down from the city, you know, and they would sell drugs in our community. And then I would see my homeboys who had good family upbringings. Like, they have mom, dads, they have houses, but they still wanted to sell drugs. I'm like, why y'all, you know? So I'm like, well, what was it? And I really think that the music really influenced this drug dealer lifestyle. And now, even now, like now it's the user. We're in this user frame. Everybody's sipping lean and popping pills and doing perks. And nobody's really telling these young kids like, yo, you ain't no different from the crackhead. Like, or you're not no different from the hair. Like, Percocet is heroin, right? So when you get sick, because I used to work in before, when I left radio for a while, I started to work for a mental health company, Keys and Powers. And what we did was that we provided Baltimore City youth with mental health therapists. And a lot of them, and we gave them drug classes, and a lot of them was hooked on these perks. And a lot of them, so I was able to really sit with them and see that. And they coming to me, Miss Jones, I'm sick. Like, I got this. I'm like, you going through withdrawal, baby? Let's withdraw. And they didn't know that. It wasn't in their mind, because they're thinking, this is a perk, like this is a pill. This ain't, I ain't sniffing it, I ain't doing this, but it's like, it's the same thing, probably a little bit more potent, you know, if you really want to think about it. And now when they get sick and how they become addicts, because I've seen this time and time again, they get sick because the pills cost about $30. They ain't got the money to buy the pills. So what they go and do, get a $5 heroin bag, and now they hooked. And now we have new generations of youth that are addicted to heroin, especially, I don't know how it is in Chicago, but I know in Baltimore City, you see, if you ain't never seen the heroin lean, I mean, these folks defy gravity. Yes. Yeah. And they will go all the way down to the ground and will not fall. Mm-hmm. When you see young people, 19, 20, I mean, young, out there strung out, it's a problem. And it's like, how do they know about these drugs? How do we, if sipping lean was so big in the South, in Texas, why are we sipping lean up in the East? We don't know nothing about sipping lean and drinking perp. That's a Southern thing. But because we listen to the music and we see it and it's glorified, now everybody walking around with a cup full of lean.
Truer words ain't never been like spoken, and it's even to the point now where it's transferring over into sports, you know, where you have these group of young athletes now, as you said, they grew up in this culture and like the user culture, you know, so now they have money, you know, and they have access to things that they really never had access, you know, to before. And who's really like in their ear trying to tell them, you know, yo, brother, sister, I don't think, you know, man, this is probably not the way for you to go. Because even in your book, you talk about it, like there was a time when we didn't mention anything. Well, I shouldn't say we, but rap or hip hop didn't mention anything about drugs. Weed was probably the worst thing you can talk about at the time. And that was when Redman, Cypress Hill, Snoop, and, you know, certain people came out, and this was what their albums were about. But even like within those albums, I could tell you definitely like Redman, if anybody's ever listened to the first Redman album, it's like half skits, half like, you know, like songs, but even in the skits, like it's funny skits, you know? So, you know, it's not telling you, oh, well, man, I smoked this and I went out and shot 20 people. No, it didn't happen like that. You know, it was really some funny, stupid, crazy story or what have you, which, you know, doesn't make it right in its own. But, you know, and I'm just going to put myself out here real quick. For all those who remember the music box that used to come on, you had to like call in, dial in this certain code to see your favorite video that will be played. Of course, they charge you. You know, you didn't hit, man, you ain't, man, them charges hit funny after a while. But man, like, I learned how to smoke weed watching Hand on a Pump, Cypress Hill music video. That's how I learned. Other than that, I wasn't around. So I wasn't around those types of people. All right.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, you know, growing up in Chicago, it could be rough here and there or whatever, but there were only a handful of people doing certain things. And if you wasn't around these people like that, you didn't see any of that. The only thing you would probably see more of anything would be alcohol. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Alcohol was probably the biggest thing you seen in somebody's home or whatever. And back then you didn't want to be known as the drunk or the wino or, you know, the wine head, whatever they would call it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, you know, it's funny how you know, talk about that and how now it's so, man, it is so polarized that it's not even funny. Like, everybody's out here doing, man, either selling drugs, they the plug, they on their way to the plug, they didn't, like, you know, man, they didn't rob the plug or whatever, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But like, my whole thing is, okay, if everybody's out here selling drugs, who's buying the drugs?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, somebody got to be buying this. You know what I'm saying?
Somebody got to be buying the drugs, right?
Man, somebody got to be buying it. But no, like, I mean, like, these are great points that you bring up in your book. Okay, now we can get into some other things. I mean, I know you got chapters in there where they're talking about dropping gems. You got, you know, stuff, man, like, man. It's
Politics. I talk about the hustle of, you know, how hip hop is an industry full of entrepreneurs. It's one of the probably only genres, maybe not only, but music genres that is filled with entrepreneurs. I mean, if you can think it, and if you can, whatever, you can really, you know, make this your livelihood and get paid off of this, you know. So it is an industry full, and I think it also invokes the entrepreneurship spirit in all of us, right? Listening to your favorite rapper, hearing their story on how they make it, and the next thing you know, you're like, you know what, dang, they came from the same hood I came from, I could do this too. So I think it does invoke entrepreneurship in us, ownership in us, and creating and having our own in us.
I love it because, man, and I think you hit on it, you know, when you're talking about all these independent labels now. You know, like, man, you have so many independent labels now than you've had ever, you know, because Absolutely. Back then it was about trying to get a deal. Everybody wanted to get a smash.
Everybody wanted a deal.
Man, everybody wanted a deal. I want to get signed. 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 And then you start hearing all these stories about, you know, strange things happening after you get signed. You know, I want to say Boogie Down Productions has a song called How Not to Get Jerked. You know what I'm saying? In the music industry. Freddie Fox, Bumpy Knuckles has a song called Industry Shakedown. Some of the people that you're mentioning in your book, Sylvia Rome, some of these big wigs that sit behind these desks that don't look like us, you know, right. How they're controlling the game and how, you know, there needs to be an industry shakedown. And so let me just say, man, your book is on point. Okay.
Let me tell you, and the more, so now I'm thinking it's a new thing, right? This new thought just came, and I was just thinking about like how all of these artists, right, are getting signed and getting killed, right? You have your Young Dolphs, you have a couple of other MCs that didn't necessarily like become major, but they have a big following on social media. And I read this where it's like, you know, they want, like, the industry now, it's like you got to have street credibility, you got to get hot in the street, you got to get hot on the social media. So you have these artists doing all these like these crazy things to become viral. And then once they become viral and they get this and they get that, the label companies then sign them, and then they take out insurance policies on them. You know what I mean? Because they're not expecting you to live to see the fruits of your labor, but then when you die, we're gonna get that insurance policy, and and that's just something that my mind is like, oh, what is happening here?
Well, to your point, and once again, I'm going to reference your book. Okay, all right. I'm telling y'all people, y'all need to go get this book. All right. I mean, y'all know I don't be on here doing endorsements, but man, look here. 7 lessons hip hop taught me that school didn't. So let me get to your point real quick. In your book, and in one of those chapters, you talk about drill rap, all right? And how it was originated here in Chicago.
Yeah.
Chief Keef being one of the originators. And, you know, it's so funny, you know, that he originated something that he can't even control and he can't even come back home to. But that's a totally different story, but that ties in to what you're talking about, how a lot of these rappers like, you know, King Von and all these other guys or whatever are signing these deals, and, you know, they get this shine real quick, but they don't live long enough to like see the fruits of these labors. And then, you know, they're gunned down in some beef, you know what I'm saying? And cause I'm like, so you mean to tell me guys in Chicago are having a beef with guys in Atlanta? Like, how do they even know each other? You know what I'm saying? Like, where do they know each other from? You know, like, how are these things being like done? You know what I'm saying? And, you know, to your point, I really do believe now there's like a underhand dwelling in hip hop, and some of these so-called labels, you know, they're not labels, you know, because if you notice, a lot of people have entertainment now. They're not a label, they're entertainment. All right. So that can fall under a mirage of things now, you know what I'm saying? And who's ever running these things or what have you, you know, like, yeah. And this is just my own personal theory, you know, they're just, man, there's like a list of people they want gone or whatever. As you said, we collect the insurance money and stuff on this, you know. Like, we don't know if these guys ever got around to owning their own masters. We don't know if their families eating off these, you know, records or what have you, these albums that they put out. You know, we don't know that, you know, because they are not around anymore. And if it's the label that's still benefiting from all this, then, you know, you have families out there that are hungry and starving because their sole provider is now gone. And and now the label owns everything and they're eating off, you know, your talent. You know what I'm saying? Right. So, yeah, like, man, look
I think in the future, we're going to really see that. You know, I think that's going to, especially with drill music, and now that it's becoming global, I just really recently sat down and listened to the drill songs. I went down that rabbit hole. And I just was like, it like tore my soul up to hear it. It was like, this is beyond, like, this is definitely casting spells on the youth, you know.
It's dark. And
it's very, very dark. It's very, very dark. And then when I saw that now it's becoming global, and, you know, people are starting, I'm like, oh, this is not good. This is not good.
I mean, basically, yeah, I know they call it drill music, but you might as well call it kill music, because, you know, when you have, look, when drill rap is big in certain parts of Russia that we can't even go into, you know what I'm saying? When drill rap is big in Africa, you know what I'm saying? Like, when drill rap is big in Brazil, when, like, drill rap is big in these certain, like, you know, countries or what have you. I don't even know if they have it in China, or Japan, They probably do, like mainly underground or what have you, but you know, it's going to be a problem.
Absolutely, and it's already becoming a problem because it's I know that it's big in Europe, and Europe has had a uptick. Of course, they don't have guns, you know, but they got knives, and so they have an uptick in people getting killed by knives and stabbing that they never had before. You know what I mean? Like, you don't think that like y'all beefing in Europe? Like, what's happening over there? Like, what's happening? You know, but it's an uptick in that. But I remember listening, I when I brought that out, right, and excuse me if I'm being long-winded with this, but it was a friend. I was at a training, and it was a Mexican guy. He was from Ecuador, and he said that the gang, and I'm going to research it. He said that the gangsters, because this is when I was going down that drill music, and I was like, listen to this. He said that in Mexico they have a similar music genre, right, where the gangsters and it's not rap, it's something that they create, but they talk about the people they have killed, and they glorify it, and they boast about it. And I'm like, this is drill music, you know. And I'm like, wow, this is and I'm beginning into learning about different frequencies and how frequencies and sound and how that, and I'm like, wow, okay, so there's a frequency here that produces those type of thoughts, right? So it might not just be hip hop, because like what's happening in Mexico, where like the gangsters are talking about how they been killed and chopped off, you know, folks' heads, and they're glorifying it. Like, what frequency of music is that on, and how does that compare to like drill music? So yeah.
Well, I'm gonna tell you, you know, and I think you mentioned this, you know, your father was in music, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So there, I normally say this to musicians who come on to the show, and even certain artists, you know, rap artists who have been on this show. But I talk about the true science of sound. You know, like there's as you just said, like there's a certain like sound that takes you to a place or whatever. There's a science to everything, all right? Just like there's a science to writing and rapping, there's a science of sound. And if you study sound long enough, you know how to, okay, I'm gonna play this up tempo for about maybe 3 seconds, and then I'm gonna hit you with this like down tempo real quick. You know, right. And I'm just gonna mix it up, and I'm gonna make you feel a certain type of way, because this is what I do. You know what I'm saying? I've studied this long enough. Yeah, I'm almost being like a chemist, you know, musically, you know what I'm saying? So I'm gonna make you feel this way, then I'm gonna make you feel this way, and I'm gonna put these thoughts, and you know, like you're gonna feel happy here, but for the rest of the album, you're gonna feel this way. You know what I'm saying? Like dark, in a real dark place, which I think, like you said, at times put these thoughts in people's heads, and man, they're out here just doing whatever, you know. But let me just ask this about the book itself. Like, well, first and foremost, how long did it take you to write the book?
Ooh, way too long. So it took me about 7 years. And the reason why is because hip hop music is always evolving, right? And I didn't want to leave anything out. So when I would come to one thought, it would change, and I'm like, oh man, so-and-so is doing this over here, you know? And then like really when the uprising happened in Baltimore, I wanted to, in that moment, I had stopped writing for about 1.5 years because I was so focused on what was happening in the city, and I was doing my activism, and I was doing all that. I didn't really have it. To me, I was thinking about hip hop. I was thinking about what was happening in the streets of Baltimore, you know, and I could not bring those two together. I'm like, and it was like, it just stopped, right? It like the thoughts, the creativity, it just stopped. And then I picked it back up once I was like, okay, I'm burnt out from activism, because that will burn you out. And then I picked it back up and I was like, I gotta finish this book. And I was literally, every time someone asked me, I was like, I'm 2 chapters away. I'm 2 chapters away. And I was 2 chapters away for about 2-3 years. And then I was just like, I'm gonna finish. And it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be done. And that's the motto I just ran with to finish it. And then I ended up finishing it. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So now I always like to ask this question, you know, in your opinion, who does this book speak to, and why is the message important to them?
You know, I really think that this speaks to the younger generation. I mean, I know that the gatekeeper, I keep saying the gatekeepers, but I know that the hip hop lovers, I know that they're gonna like it. They're gonna, you know, they're gonna be like, oh yeah, and they're gonna probably debate me on certain things, you know, but these are my opinions, you know what I'm saying? But I think for the younger generation, and I really want them to really understand like where it came, like the history behind it, and not from, oh, what you guys are doing are wrong or your music is trash. You know, no. I want them to understand like, okay, this is the roots, and this is where we got from where we got to, and how influential that the music can be, and how the music, if you are not literate and understand the message that is trying to come across to you, it can really kind of lead you in the wrong direction if you don't understand, like, you are being programmed to believe a certain thing, and you are being programmed to want certain stuff and behave certain ways. And this is how you're being programmed because this is how it started. You know, like in here, this book is going to tell you how the industry programs you. And I'm talking about the machine behind the industry, how it programs your young mind to think, to act, to become a certain way.
Okay. All right. Well, no. Well, let me just say, yes, and that's exactly who I was thinking about as I'm skimming through it. I'm like, yeah, the younger generation definitely, man, they could definitely benefit from this. And two, let me just keep it real. You know, the fact that, you know, you have been in the music industry, not per se rapping or whatever, but man, radio, you know what I'm saying? Putting on events, meeting people. Like I'm telling y'all, we're gonna talk about her web page and all that, but if you go on her web page and you check out Miss Civ Jones, she on there with a couple of heavy hitters like Dead Prez, Diggy Simmons, and all these other people. Man, she got Night Wonder on there. You know what I'm saying? Like, man, look at like the woman know what she's talking about, okay? Because she's like meeting these people, she's talking to these people. You know, man, she grew up in the culture, and I think it's dope is it's a woman's perspective. And I'm gonna keep it real. Like, and we talked about it before. Like, I don't think women get enough recognition in hip hop, you know, than they should. You know what I'm saying? Like, hell, if like Sylvia, I can't think of her last name, but right now, you know, the woman who created Sugar Hill, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, man, like if she had the insight to like, you know, do that, and from documentaries that I've heard, you know what I'm saying, she didn't even know how to go out there and meet rappers, you know what I'm saying? Like she had a friend and they went and told another friend, and it was like some word of mouth stuff, in the Sugar Hill gang formed. Like they didn't know each other like that, you know what I'm saying? But, you know, to have like women behind the scene, you know, I think about D. Barnes was one of the first people. Oh yes, D. Barnes, like, one of the first journalists, right? Journalists, you know what I'm saying? I used to watch Pump It Up on Fox, you know what I'm saying, Saturday nights, you know what I'm saying?
That's why I don't mess with Dr. Dre to this day. Hearing her story with Dr. Dre, like why are we still like? He basically abused this woman, you know? Yeah, and I mean, he threw her down a flight of steps. Like, let's keep it real, people. Let's keep it real. Let's just keep it real. I mean, look, I'm gonna say it. You know what I'm saying? Y'all don't want to say it. And you know, hip hop needs their Me Too movement. Oh my goodness, if we had the Me Too movement, but but that's a whole nother
show for a whole nother day that hopefully we can have Civ Jones back and we can have a bit of powwow.
Definitely would love to come back.
But you know, like I just think the perspective, like a woman's perspective on hip hop, you know, is much needed because it's been male dominated too long, you know, and man, like how many times can a guy tell their story? You know, and we all know the same story.
We all know the same story. And there would be times where my homeboys would, you know, or just like friends in the industry would have these shows and I would call them up or I would put it on their Instagram. Where's the woman's representation? Like, and I would call them out and they would be like, oh, you're right. Okay, let me go back, you know, and I will call them out on it. Where are the women? Why ain't no women on these shows? Why is it a show? Why is this a whole sausage fest? Like, where is the women? You know what I'm saying? Like, you want us to come to these shows, you want us to be supportive, but why y'all not supporting the women that's doing stuff on the industry? Where are they? And they're like, you know what? You're absolutely correct. So like, sometimes as women, we have to force our way through something and understand like, look, nah, this is just as much as yours as it is mine. And my voice is going to be heard.
Right.
You froze on me for a second.
Oh, no. Yeah.
Okay.
Just like,
you froze.
Yeah. But, but no, like, I hear that and I feel that 110%, and you are correct. And man, look, like I said, I'm just happy to have you on this platform speaking about this, you know. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm telling y'all, this ain't Civ Jones' last time on this platform. She coming back, okay? I don't know if she's gonna write another book, but she gonna come back. All right, you know what I'm saying? Because we having gospel today. We just ain't pulling out the plate and asking y'all for a collection right now, you know what I'm saying? But it's all good. It's all good.
Right.
But so how can people get in contact with you if they want to, like, man, if they want the book, they want to learn more about Civ Jones, this, that, what have you, how can they do so?
Absolutely. My website, civjones.com, my social media, civjones.com. This Thursday, actually, which is going to be July 21st, I'm going to be doing an online reading and book signing on my Facebook Live. It's going to be very simple. Like, it's going to be on Facebook Live, and I'm just going to, you know, do a live. I'm going to read from the book, and I'll be able to sign. I know a couple of people were like, I want an autograph signature, so I'll be signing the books. But if they want to, then if you're not able to, you know, make it, then the book is available on Amazon right now. You go to Amazon, type in 7 Lessons Hip Hop Taught Me That School Didn't, or you can type in Civ Jones. It's on Kindle and it's in paperback. And then you can also go to my website at civjones.com to purchase the book as well.
Okay, 2 things. All right. I already know, man, look here. I know Amazon didn't went up a little bit on that Prime, but y'all still ordering stuff anyway. Go ahead and order that book. Leave a 4 or 5 stars.
Yes, and easy to review.
Yes, stars, and leave a great review. Okay?
Absolutely.
Leave a great review. All right. Second thing is, man, look here. For my folks that got Kindle, y'all ain't got no excuse. It reads it for you. Okay? I don't know if it's gonna be Civ Jones' voice you gonna hear, but it reads it for you, bro. All right. So y'all go ahead and go.
Right.
All right. But I've come to my last question, but this is the question that my show is known for, so I'm gonna present it to you. Miss Civ Jones, City Civ. I love G-Man. City Civ. But Miss Civ Jones, what is the one word that best describes you and why?
Storyteller. I don't know if that's 1 word or 2 words, but a storyteller, a griot. You know, I'm stepping into that arena, and I had to like really step, because I'm like, wow, why do I get to meet certain people and go certain places and be amongst certain things? And I love to give that knowledge back. I don't keep it in, you know, like you pull up to me and say, hey, I want to have a conversation. I'm like, all right, let's have this conversation, you know? So I am a stories. I'm a griot, you know what I mean? And so I'm stepping into that. I'm telling our stories. I have a lot of stories in me that I want to get out. And I'm stepping into that realm. So that's how I would describe myself.
Hey, look here. Man, storyteller, y'all. Okay. I mean, look, man, I'm just going to call her facts. All right. Man, that's my word, facts. Okay. Because, I mean, like everything you're bringing up, you know, are facts. And it's your story. You know what I'm saying? And you know what happened in your story. So you giving it to us and, you know, allowing us into your world and, you know, how you view things and see things, you know, man, like I can't challenge that. You know what I'm saying? I can only speak of certain, you know, events that you talk about in the book as far as hip hop goes. And I have to think back to my timeline where I was during this time and when this person came out and that person and what I was doing. So, man, look, storyteller, that's what it is. Okay, griot, that's what it is. All right. Shout out to Dave Chappelle. But anyway, yeah, that's what's up. You know what I'm saying? But no, look. I have enjoyed this. This is gospel, y'all. Okay, this one on interview, this was gospel. Y'all was getting the gospel today. Okay. Like I said, we ain't passed out the plates or anything, but y'all was getting that good gospel. Okay. And I just really, truly thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
And man,
thank you for having me.
Man, blessing us. And seriously, the doors to work with Ty Brownlow are always open for Civ Jones to come back. I would love for you to come back and share more of, man, whatever it is you got. If it's more chapters in the book that you want to talk about, fine, whatever. Man, you are now, man, you ain't a guest no more, you family. So yeah, I mean, I know you done been all over to Germany and Hawaii and all that, but you welcome in Chicago too on Word with Ty Brownlow. There it is. Boom. All right.
Thank you. I appreciate you. I appreciate you so much for opening up your airwaves and talking to me. I definitely appreciate you for this.
Man, it's all good. It's all good. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been Word with Ty Brownlow. I've been your host, Ty Brownlow. Remember, no one is worthless. No story is worthless. You can follow me all social media platforms, Word with Ty Brownlow, or you can just go to my website, tybrownlow.com. Definitely get this good gospel interview, whatever you want to call it, plus other great interviews as well. Once again, y'all, 7 lessons hip hop taught me that school didn't, by Civ Jones. This is Civ Jones. That's her book. Holla. All right, y'all. We out. Peace.